Attention gamers. The champion in League of Legends with the most skins is Lux, which means it makes sense for Uncle Rito to keep her stronger than a young Larry Wheels for their target audience when it comes to skin sales. The target audience being gold hard stuck mastery chasing morons who have less LP than they do credit card debt, and that's why for as long as I can remember she feels like constantly more OP than the sequel to M and N in the alphabet at these lower ranks. But oddly enough she's never played in pro play and rarely seen picked in the higher ranks of solo queue, and the reason why can be explained all the way back in 2020 when I paid $400 for a coaching session with Nice and he talked about how she doesn't have agency. Basically, once players are good enough to dodge the only trick she has up her sleeve, she just gets bent over and slapped silly like an insubordinate schoolboy in front of a ruler-wielding nun in the 90s. This was seen firsthand when I went undercover in Challenger, locked in Lux mid and proceeded to get my ass chopped up, sautéed and handed to me by an ex-pro player, while the comment section of that video full of LCS coaches were quick to remind me that I'm a dumbass for picking this champ in Challenger. But recently, thanks to Lol Dobby, I've discovered a Korean Lux who is approaching rank 1 with this exact pick, but with a few modifications to give her the agency that Nice and comparably qualified backseating commenters said she lacks, and the strategy is a bit strange. This player takes PTA as a main rune with Ignite, two things that most Lux players would swear against, and then rushes Proto Belt as a first time with Shadow Flame as a second. The idea is that her passive works with auto attacks. It allows her to maintain pressure if she misses her combo or when it lacks damage in the early game, and both PTA and Shadow Flame amplify Ignite damage, while Rocket Belt gives her mobility, extra burst, and a way to pop spell shields. So the first thing I did was hop into a swift play game because I had my doubts this would work at all for anyone other than this single Korean with clearly autistic levels of Lux mechanics, and I wasn't going to waste my time in a real game just to feed my ass off and be told not to reproduce like I typically do when trying weird builds that I saw online. This started out fan-freaking-tastic as I was poking her more than a dermatologist pokes a sus-looking mole, as she couldn't dodge into me because the psychological effect of seeing PTA stack threw her off, which resulted in me slowing her and peppering her like a steak that needs seasoning, which forced her to play so far from any wave you'd think she was deathly afraid of the ocean. This punishment continued until I waited for her predictable pathing to signal that it was time for her to be dead as shit, and I flashed in for the dubstep Ignite. I continued bullying hard, which isn't saying much because Kale rhymes with scale, but she has the lane presence of a tricycle on the autobahn, so I didn't exactly have to play these fights well to get the kills early. That said, I did want to test the potential of PTA, so I challenged her to a slap battle where I would play 1-2-3 give Rav the killing spree combo, but she put a condom on, which meant no one was getting dicked, but the bonus damage from PTA amplifies everything until I drop combat so I could still burst her down after. I started to notice that when I was in her face whipping little luminescent auto attacks at her, she couldn't dodge nearly as well, so even though my beam got bitch bubbled every time I knew what I wanted to do. I waited for the little robed midgets to cause a distraction, and then I revealed that this blonde has both two thumbs and a dash, to which she flashed, but I still kicked her in the ash not to be brash, and that added another kill to my stash: green eggs and ham. Then, since my ult cooldown is shorter than your average political streamer's dick, I knew it would be ready before her, so the next fight there was no bubble and I had the little rocket jizz to burst her down. They totally surrendered right after, and we totally didn't lose or anything, and this concluded my first swift play proof of concept that this could actually work, and I was ready to take it into a real game. Against a Z1 trick, which would be the perfect test because normally people of the Deadpool cosplaying variant will shove so many shurikens up my shithole my dead corpse could act as a Beyblade shooter, and I was already preparing for the worst, but I knew the strategy only works if you are aggressive with auto attacks. Anytime I saw Edward Scissorhands approaching a hoodlum, I would shove 50 watts of bullshit down his throat, and at one point when he stayed long enough to get PTA'd, I immediately lit him on fire, hoping he would underestimate the buffed amount of damage it does this early, and sure enough it got me first blood. I kept whipping lumens at him, expecting my fun to very promptly end the second he hit level 6, but unfortunately for him I already had him lower than a chain-smoking COPD asthmatic by then, so he celebrated his 6th birthday in a fountain without color on his screen. He came back to lane, and I could just tell by how he was throwing his little shitter shadows at me that he was about to be more aggressive than a mosquito at a mannequin factory, as one trade had him taking the bait, and even though I missed my Q, I guess a constant stream of autos with the 8% bonus damage from PTA on all of them along with my passives weaved from constant E-poppers was enough to beat a Z without my ult. At this point this dude is putting the ass in assassin as he's eating more light than a solar panel, while my job is to now keep him in a different zip code from the wave as he continues to walk into my skill shots like he's one of the enemies in a swag video, and with that I start 4-0. Side note, just to be comprehensive there, Diana is fed as fuck and may or may not end this game with like 27 kills, but seeing as Zed is dead and I am fed, I figured I'd roam, I'd spread, I'd stop this dragon, I said. But Diana got it by a thread before she herself became dead. Okay, I'm done rhyming. I've been reading useless fucking baby books for 2 weeks and that whole industry pisses me off so much that I could just auto attack an assassin down to half health as a Lux with a random ass build that has no business being this good. Anyways, this douche can dance between shadows all he wants. I have him constantly shining like a waxed asshole, so the next time he decides to chomp on one of my light bulbs I show him that I too can flash and start a fire. Anyways, all this free smurf like murder is taking its toll on me, so I take a quick vacation south, see if I can seduce the locals, blonde meets blonde, and I will open by telling him I'm not like the other blondes he's been with. I come with a dash and a lot of unexpected flair. Turns out my team's Lantern Larry has found a male stripper in the wild who is all like drunk punch fest, which tickles me. Granted, my belt gives me health as I weave autos and then let the rift clit alley-oop him back to his fountain. At this point the only person who can ruin my video is this dirty Diana, so I'm doxing this bitch on the mini-map so that some jacked boulder swats her and I can breast beam her before getting a rocket belt to finish her off. Then it's looking bleak for the repetitive legendary shoutouts to continue when Zed shows up, but I tie their shoelaces together and then leave them with a parting gift. Then me and Malphite rip this Oreo in two. I lick the icing off of his rock hard nipples and then I say you eat the bottom. I'm more of a top as I run up north to whip one last Edison ball at the hoe to finish her off. Then we all run into their forest together as if a round of capture the flag just started, but instead of the flag we were looking for this lunar lunatic who was close to legendary. Poor Deadpool was trying his luck up top now, but unlucky for him I have the necessary communication skills to instruct Bob the Boulder to nose tackle a hoe so that I can shine some light in his dumb costumes eye holes once again. We head mid and what looks like an innocent little gank on Lil Gup ends up turning into full-blown World War III. Support set tanks 659 abilities and gets out, but luckily we have Lizzie the Lizard who lands a flashy Fruit Loop cannonball to set up the first two. But then Dirty D comes in to remind Jennifer Aniston that she's not Ross and they aren't friends, as I stay on the outskirts knowing she can just tag team the moon into the fight and that bitch slaps, but eventually I take her down with an auto. Then Zed promptly draws an X to mark the spot where he will die for the 12th time before I smell a little too much of Aurelia's stank breath before flashing out and watching her decease herself from afar. That said, not all the ARAM encounters were going well. As you can see, this Diana was demonstrating exactly why I was avoiding her like the plague, but leave it to an ADC to passively die in a fight that he wasn't even fully participating in. Anyways, I had to head top because I wasn't about to lose this game to some the Bausp bullshit, and I figured stopping a split push is much more enjoyable when some psychopath is whisper singing numbers in my ear, so I brought a gin for the ride along. At one point I tried to enter a fight when Zed tried to get his revenge on specifically me for the previous 40 encounters, so I just tied him up and disrespected him with nothing but autos. Then I got a bit greedy using my belt boost aggressively to catch a wild twinkle shit which left me vulnerable to a moon mash, so I hit the flash and then I waited for Diana to finish being dramatic so that I could tie her up and ship her back to base. This left just Jeff sight fleeing, but Jin put that shitter on the tee for me to close my eyes and swing hard. A large worm of epic quality spawned in Northern River and a bunch of macro mouth breathers were all like we need to contest, and I'm thinking fine, but Diana better not be there, and sure enough the first person I saw was the vortexing vixen who didn't even do me the courtesy to let my ult kill her, so in the theme of the video I did have to style on her before letting set be the proverbial dessert to the main course once again. And I do have to say this build is only like 300 health tankier than a standard Lux build, but for some reason I felt like a 6-item Mundo anytime this top tried to spit in my face, and my only theory was that it was because she was a dumb bitch. One more kill on the set and we were ready to breach the base. I was autoing it as you could hear the fat lady warming up the vocal cords until the damn inhibitor respawned, and due to circumstances related to my ego wanting to preserve my KDA, I had to back off. But not to fear, Counting Dracula was here. And there you have it, The super odd PTA Rocket Belt Lux with Ignite Tech taking over the mid lane. Thanks for watching and brush your teeth tonight. Rav out.